Thank you very much for this wonderful reception in Asia. So many wonderful countries that I've had the pleasure of experiencing, and the people particularly that I've grown very fond of to meet and talk to and learn from. So I wanted to share with you some observations. Uh, I'm so satisfied that the Museum of Marketing 3.0, being the only museum of marketing in the world, is celebrating its 10th anniversary. And I'm so happy and gratified that your group decided to hold a meeting at a time of my birthday. Now, I want to say that my 90 is my chronological age, but my psychological age is 50 or 60. I feel as young, it's always more important to address what is your psychological age than your chronological age. I am very proud to have been working with Hermawan Kartajayev for so many years, 23 years. And I also want to thank the royal family and princes in Ubud for helping us establish the Museum of Marketing 3.0. Now, I'd like to take this opportunity to share some ideas, some of which are familiar, and maybe some are newer. First of all marketers should be promoting the idea which we call BMBW, namely that better marketing, BM, will lead to a better world. And you know that marketing's original purpose was simpler, really. Originally, the purpose was to create and deliver good quality products with the aim of producing customer satisfaction and maybe even consumer delight. Now, I would like to move to a higher purpose. Yes, let's continue to create customer satisfaction, but I think marketing's aim should be higher. And its aim should be to produce higher human happiness and higher human well-being. The products we sell keep the customer satisfied and hopefully healthy, and we measure that by the GDP, the gross domestic product. But the GDP also includes bad products. We make guns, we sell cigarettes, we sell food with fat and salt too much and sugar too much. So we have to have a higher aim than just making a lot of products. Our higher aim is to produce more happiness. And for that, we need two more measures. We need GDH, gross domestic happiness, and we need gross domestic well-being, GDW. Now, recently, I was appointed to the board of the World Happiness Foundation. And I had the opportunity to meet many board members from Asia because the World Happiness Foundation is worldwide. And it was that small country of Bhutan that produced the idea that the purpose of a society is happiness. And the king of Bhutan actually helped formulate a framework for measuring happiness. I don't know if you know the story, that at one point the king wanted to retire from being the king, but the people in Bhutan told him he cannot retire because if he did, he would lower the level of happiness in his country. So he should stay there so they can remain happy. In any case, I've been thinking a lot about capitalism, and I believe profoundly that capitalism is the right system, that it did it does raise the standard of living. It just go into any home and you'll see appliances, refrigerators, microwave ovens, things that were resisted basically by consumers because either they didn't have the money to buy these objects and appliances, or they were not believing that it could make their life better. So what was the role of marketing? The marketing role was to demonstrate that these new products will add to happiness and interest to their lives. So that goal remains a goal of marketing, to raise the standard of living throughout the world. Now, there's all forms of capitalism. As I listen to each country that has spoken, the Philippines, South Korea, Thailand, Singapore, all of the wonderful comments you've made, and all of you have forms of capitalism. And capitalism is generally dynamic, but there's one problem we have to address, and that is that it's also creating a growing gap of income and wealth, a gap that I'm afraid is growing very big. So what can we say about that? Well, in my country, we have the world's highest GDP. Okay, we should be satisfied that in the United States, we have the highest gross domestic product. China is second, I believe, in that. But our gross national happiness, which is not the gross national product, our gross national happiness in the United States is number 19. Not bad. It could be 200, the worst, but it's 19. And our gross national health stands at 16. Now, even Canada, our neighbor to the north, is a happier and healthier country. So we have a shrinking middle class. And I've always thought that the middle class was the objective, that everyone should be middle class. Everyone should have, if they want, a nice home, good education, good health insurance, and all those other things. And that's not the case, unfortunately. We have a shrinking middle class. We have, however, many billionaires in the world and so many more poor people. My estimate is that there are 3,000 billionaires in the world. And I'm going to say something about that in a moment. But here's the story. Many young people cannot go to college in my country and in many countries, but in my country in particular, the cost of getting a 4-year degree at a good college in the United States is $200,000. Young people either don't go to college because of that reason, or they go and they graduate with a huge debt. And the debt is such that they cannot, when they graduate, really buy a home because they're busy paying off the loans, and that is delaying their marriages, and therefore delaying the building of families, and therefore slowing down economic growth. Many young people, you know, it's even a case where if a family that is not insured in my country and gets an illness that needs surgery, that's going to cost them $50,000 or $100,000, and it will wipe out their savings if they don't have insurance. Now, it's even worse than that in many, many countries. In the United States, to bring into life a baby, to have the pregnant woman get the care she needs during the pregnancy, to buy the products and the cribs and the buggies and so on, costs at least $20,000 to have a new baby. And as that baby grows to the age 17, It's going to cost the family, for that child that reaches 17, it will have cost $175,000 if you're a poor family, and all the way to $372,000 if you're a rich family. So no wonder the birth rate is falling. We don't have six children families anymore. Even in the work of Thailand, I worked with that marvelous doctor who was asked to help maybe reduce the population growth rate. And he did it by making condoms very familiar to people and other steps as well. And the average birth rate, fertility rate went down from 6 members of a family to 2 members, 2 children in a family. And the point is that, do we want economic growth? Well, you're not going to get it if you're going to have a smaller population and so on. And it's just that we don't leave enough money in the hands of enough people to enjoy happiness and well-being. Now, there is one set of countries that I'm so impressed with, and they are the Nordic countries, which is Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Finland, and Iceland. They all practice the capitalism. They call it maybe welfare capitalism or democratic capitalism, but they make very important that capitalism must serve everyone and put everyone in the middle class, if possible. And so when you consider that, they have not exactly free market capitalism, because there are strong trade unions and they have to deal with the collective bargaining. But that's very good, because why shouldn't labor have a voice in the affairs of the policies of the corporations? And so these Scandinavian and Nordic countries operate around the world. They're very familiar names. Their brands are strong. We know Volvo, and we know so many, and so on. Now, that means that these 5 countries are always in the top 10 of the countries that are rated tops in happiness and tops in health, and where the income disparity is low, not high. Now, when you go to those countries, they really define for us what we think is proper. Here's what you get: free college tuition, free and excellent health care for all citizens, a much longer worker vacation time. In the United States, our vacation time is about 2 weeks. You can go to Italy, it's sometimes 6 weeks, because they believe vacations are very important for people. There are always maternity and paternity benefits, and there's a lot of child care and care for the aged parents, because there's nothing more difficult for a young family not only to take care and have children, but to take care of their parents. So the Nordic idea is to make a good life for all citizens. And these benefits, of course, have a cost. And the cost is that instead of paying a top income tax rate in my country, which is sort of 39%, the top rate in the Scandinavian countries is nearer to 70%. Now, that is not what is paid by the average person. It's much lower. But the top earners are paying 70%. So would you rather be in a country with freer education, better health, and so on, and pay a higher tax rate, especially if you've been earning a lot of money or not? And that brings me to the fact that we have about $3,000 billionaires in the world. We have a lot of other people who run companies and they earn 320 times as much as the average worker. Now that's nice and they are very comfortable earning that. Some of them earn much more than that even, but the average is 320 in my country. You know, when Peter Drucker looked at the question many years ago, he said, 20 times is the right rate that the CEO ought to have. He should be worth 20 times the average worker. Well, in Japan, it started to move to about 100 times. And it's still low compared to what we're paying, 320 times what, and so on. So we produce the most billionaires in the world. By the way, it's very interesting that the second country with the most billionaires is China now. And India is got at least 100 billionaires too. The nice thing is that we owe something to two people, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. As billionaires, they said, maybe we can ourselves give more money back to good causes, and maybe we can get other billionaires who we met and know and recruit to promise that they should make a giving pledge. It's called the Giving Pledge. And they should promise to give up half of their wealth within 10 years to good causes. It could be supporting hospitals, colleges, and good causes, health, like cancer societies and so on and so forth. And sure enough, they have already signed up 214 people on the Giving Pledge. Now, if they signed up that number, that is about less than 10% of the number of billionaires in the world. Can we get more of them to help us? Now, here's the question basically. We know that anyone who already has $1 billion has available everything that they could possibly need and want, including a yacht, their own plane, and so on. That's what $1 billion is able to do. 2 billion is more, twice as much, but it can't make them consume anything more. They could have 2 yachts, yes. So what is this crazy drive of a billionaire to need to have, as Jeff Bezos has, $170 billion? Well, what happens is there's a game too. Any level that you have of wealth as a billionaire, there's someone and several people have more. And I guess somehow the ego gets fed to need a measure equal to someone else who you admire. And yet, can we do something about having, it's one thing to just raise taxes, and even in my country, we're talking about a wealth tax as well, which hasn't been passed, but Senator Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are talking about a wealth tax as well. But if these people who decide to spend their money on all kinds of things like extra homes and swimming pools and yachts and so on, if we can convince them to really constructively give their money to people who need a better life, it seems to me we have to do what we can, or we have to raise taxes and raise the money somehow. So I want to say one more thing, because you have a lot on your agenda, and that has to do with a new name that we're giving to a form of capitalism. The form we had is basically called shareholder capitalism. Namely, that the company exists to maximize profits. This is Milton Friedman, my old teacher at the University of Chicago, who says nothing else counts. Don't give away money to any causes, because the money really belongs to the shareholders who gave you the money to start the business and to run the business. And so the purpose of a business is to maximize profits for the owners. And otherwise you're not going to get money back or more money that you need if you don't give them enough of a return. By the way, we could raise a lot of questions about whether share owners really care, because they move their money around all the time. Where's the loyalty? Where's the caring? But in any case, that's been the basis of what's called neoliberalism. It's been the basis of running the economy, maximizing profits, and so on. Now, that is not what we call the new form. The new form is stakeholder capitalism. Who are the stakeholders? Not the shareholders, but the stakeholders. The stakeholders are your customers. They have a stake in your business. The employees, the suppliers that you value, the distributors, the communities that depend on you. They all have a stake, and they all form a team, and they all made you successful. The shareholders did not make you successful. They provided money, but it wouldn't have amounted to anything if you didn't have good management and good employees who cared and worked hard and so on. So more and more businesses ought to think of moving from shareholder focus to stakeholder focus. Now, the interesting thing is, when you oppose the idea, you're going to end up saying, well, that means the shareholders will get less. It sounds logical, right? Because you're giving away some money to good causes and to in the environment, you're protecting the environment and you're practicing sustainability. Doesn't that mean that you leave less money for the shareholders? Well, I want to prove you something. The fact is, if you really want to give the most to the shareholders, then you should go into stakeholder capitalism. Because when the stakeholders really care and they're not bored with their work and they have no interest but wages only, then you're not going to get the performance. As a matter of fact, in a very wonderful study called Firms of Endearment, 25 companies were studied that people love. They love Amazon. They love Coca-Cola. When you take these companies and you find out that they're all stakeholder companies, not shareholder-driven companies, and that they make much more money for everyone because everyone is engaged. There's a company in Japan, and I know the chairman so well, and he runs his company. This is the YKK company. It makes your zippers, whether it's a zipper for a purse or a zipper for clothing. And you know what? Their concept of the employee is not just wages. That employee should earn wages, should also have shares in the company, and should have bonuses where performances are very good. Make them wealthy, make them part owners. Why should one only get a wage? Why not make them part of the business that they're working for? You'll get so much more productivity. So I'm saying that please watch, if you're a company listening to me, and go to read what the World Economic Forum has recently done. The World Economic Forum, run by the founder, Klaus Schwab. He wrote a book on stakeholder capitalism, and he calls it the Great Reset. Businesses, remember, the World Economic Forum is attended by the top business people around the world once a year. And those top business people got together and they created the key performance measures for stakeholder capitalism. And they are rating companies now on the degree that they are following the 17 or 20 measures of stakeholder capitalism. And my assertion is that companies run by stakeholder orientation and drive will do much better and outperform those run for just the shareholders. Okay, that's what I wanted to share with you. We all are hoping for an end to the COVID period. We want the COVID period to be a piece of history. And this means we're going to be returning to times that are not quite normal. As a matter of fact, we're not going to return to the old normal. Sure, we will go to restaurants, we will watch performances with audiences, but it won't be the old normal. It's going to be a new normal. And you know what? The new normal will have many new opportunities for smart businesses. So try to anticipate where we're going to go when we finally get out of the COVID pandemic and end up with a world full of opportunities and full of ambitions to make life better for everyone. That's the purpose of marketing and should be the purpose of every business. Thank you very much for listening to me and celebrating.